Hello again everyone and welcome back. This is the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage and you are looking at my Necchi Supernova. I never know when I get a machine how many videos I'm going to make on it, but this one kind of gave me the opportunity to take a look at different questions people have. I actually showed how to thread the machine. We've done things like taking the tension assembly apart, and along with the very unique feed dog plate or needle plate for the machine. And now that we've gotten a good replacement for the bobbin winder tire, in fact the old one was gone, but if it had been on here, there's always a chance it can be dry rotted. They are made of rubber compounds, and sometimes you have the original on there and it just, and then oddly sometimes the old ones still work. It's very unusual, but it can happen. But anyway, this one was gone. And you don't have to use the bobbin winder on a machine because I'm restoring these machines. I like to restore as many functions as possible. So I'm going to get a different color thread here, and I'm going to place it here up on top of the spool pin. Now I'm going to change my angle. You won't see much of the spool pin because I want to show you, make sure we get all of this in the same shot, and I think we can do it. Okay. So we're coming down, and what you're going to do is you're going to come out. Remember, I think I kind of referred to this in some of the other videos. You pull this hidden hatch, I call it the hatch door for lack of a better term, and then you're going to push down. There's a couple of springs. There's a spring that puts tension on the door, so you got to hold that down, right? And then what you're going to do is you're going to push and over to the right. And when you do, you let your finger go, and this lever lets go. It's a separate spring, right? So you have a spring doing this, and then you have another. You press down, you pull over, and then when you let up, do it gently. Don't let it slam back. But when you do that, now if you hold on to it, it's going to pull back, and it's not going to engage. So again, I wanted to do this video, guys, because I've seen the manual, and the manual is a little murky about how this is done. They don't give you much detail. So we're going to push down. You don't have to push hard. Just kind of hold your finger on here on this little tab. When you push to the right, before you because if you just hold it, it'll spring back. So push it to the right and then let up, and then you'll notice that the wheel doesn't come all the way back over to the left. It stays to the right, and it engages the hand wheel, that very edge of the hand wheel. Let's zoom in because I'm not sure. I just want to make sure that you guys are actually getting to see what the heck I'm talking about. Here we go. That might be a little bit better. Okay, so from the top, we'll just start over. Okay, you come over, you pull down, hold this down, push to the right, and then before letting it come back, let up on this. And instead of it coming all the way over, in which case it shuts and it doesn't engage, you come over, let go, and what it should do is stay to the right and engage the hand wheel. And there you go. Okay, so now we need to actually wind a bobbin. So we're going to do that. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to get our bobbin. We have a bobbin here, an empty one, and it's this one is one of the original Necchi aluminum bobbins, I believe. You don't have to have these. I highly recommend using vintage class 15 bobbins. I would not use plastic, and the newer metal bobbins, sometimes they're such crappy quality they can cause problems. But you can get vintage bobbins pretty easily, guys. Now notice that when I want to put the bobbin on, I need to push down on this. I'm not trying to get my wheel out of alignment, but I want to push this. Now you say, well, how do I line it up? You see the little notch here, right there. That notch needs to line up with a little spring that protrudes. You can see it here, a little nib, sort of, I call it a spring. It's a nib that protrudes out from the bobbin winder shaft. So we're going to make sure that engages our notch. If you don't do that, then it's very possible that your bobbin will not stay on. It'll go flying off. But anyway, you'll see I'm pushing down because I need to make space. This thing is designed, whoops, and it slit. You just saw it pop back over. What we're doing is we want to make sure that that this notch engages with the little nib here. And then you'll see another piece. You see as I push down, you see this piece here comes down. And it's going to help hold the bobbin, but first we've got to get it in there. Now, I now have the bobbin on. It's nice and snug. And right here, this little piece that went down, you can see it. It's now holding up against the bobbin, and the bobbin tire is there. So we're in a good position. Well, now what do we do? Well, we're going to go back. I need to zoom back out. Okay, we've got our thread. Okay, now I'm going to move the camera down just a bit because I don't want to get too far away from the machine. It's kind of an odd thing to show. And the first thing I want to do is engage. There's a little curly Q. I call it curly Q. It is a thread guide right here, sort of like a pigtail style thread guide. And I want to make sure I can actually engage my thread guide. They say in the manuals you should pull it, push it in and pull it. So you can see now am I engaged or not? I thought I was. Here we go. All right. So what did I do? I took the thread. I better zoom in here again. I got this purple thread on purpose so you guys could hopefully see. Seeing thread in a video is not the easiest thing, right? Okay, so what did I do, right? Let's pull it out and we'll try it again. I took the thread, right? I pushed in and then went sort of to my left. And now I have engaged my thread guide. How do you know if you haven't? Well, if you haven't, it's going to come off. But now I'm pulling on it, it's staying. Okay? One more time. All right. Let's give you guys maybe a different angle here. See if that'll be useful. Okay. I'm going to push in right in the center between those two pieces, and I'm going to kind of pull to the left. And when I do, I have now engaged that thread guide. There went my sewing machine bottle of oil. Okay, now zoom back out. Now we have our first connection, and I think actually my thread should be coming off the right side of the spool. If I recall, I believe that's the preferred side. I don't know if it'll make a difference, but I'm gonna listen to the manual. If you don't have a manual, I've done this before, and so I can remember, but if you can't, that's okay. That's what manuals are great for. Now, as we come down, we have engaged our first thread guide, the one on the left of this lovely little hatch, and then I'm going to come down and I'm going to come under, right? This little it's not a pulley, it's just another thread guide. It's there for the purpose of helping to control the path of the thread. Now what are we doing? We are going to come back up I think I really pulled a lot of thread out, so I'm basically gonna pull up the slack of this. Oh, one thing to show you, and I was doing this and of course I caught it. Be careful whenever you've got thread on a spool pin, because when I was trying to rewind this, but even just taking thread off of a spool, sometimes the thread will get wound very, it'll start to snag around the base of your thread spool, and it'll also get caught here, and if that happens you're going to have tension issues. It's a very it's not a hard thing to fix, just be aware that it can happen, because if you're not aware you think, oh my gosh, why is my machine not working, it's got problems, and in fact it's just that the thread got a little squirrely and it wanted to wrap around things. That's honest to God, that's one of the most common causes of issues with sewing machine stitching. Okay, so we've come down, we've kind of made a little J shape, and now we're going to come back up. Still got a little bit of, there we go. Now what do I want to do? Well, remember when you're going to get your bobbin set for winding, you always want to take your thread and you're going to go to the center of the bobbin and find the slot that's on the left side of the bobbin, and you're going to come out. You don't want to go, you always want to start from the center of the bobbin and come out. Now I'm going to change camera positions again. and give you guys hopefully a better view of what I'm doing here. See if that might, I don't know if that's going to be too much or not, but we'll try it. See if that helps. Okay, so we are on our way. Let's see, let's get a little bit of a zoom here for you guys. And again, I've got this sort of purple thread. Hopefully that's going to help show up in the light. Now, what are we looking for? I just mentioned we've got almost everything set here, but you'll notice, and you just want to turn your bobbin tire just a little bit. Now, remember the notch that we had that engaged the drive shaft of this winder? We have the one on the other side here, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to come around, and I want the thread to go from here. I want it to go through that notch out, sort of this way, if that makes sense. And I want to get that notch opening. It's actually sitting right here. Not sure if that's coming up on the camera or not. Right there. It's easier for you to see it than to see it here on the camera. I'll give even a better zoom here. See what we can do. There we go. Okay, so right here is where I believe I've got my notch, and I need to get my thread going through. Give you guys a really good close-up here, hopefully. That'll help. Okay, so I'm going to take the thread, make sure I can see what I'm doing, and I'm going to come from the center, and I'm going to get that thread to hopefully wiggle through, and I did, and now I'm pulling it, and you can see it is coming. Hopefully you guys can see this thread. I came to the center of the bobbin, and then I'm going out the notch. There's a notch on each side, one notch on each side of the each rim of the bobbin. Now I'm going through that notch. So everything is set here. I just need to change my tension just a bit. And I don't mean on the machine setting, but here. Okay. Now, when you're starting this is really similar to other machines when you're trying to get the bobbin wound. And again, watch up here, because this will get squirrely on you, and you'll wonder what's going on. Now, so I've got, what have I got here now? I now have, if I start here, I come down, it's touching this thread guide, it's still there. If your tension gets too loose, it can always fall out of the thread guide. Just rethread it, not a big deal. It comes down, it goes down again, like you're making a J, comes back up, and the thread is just going to rest right on this nice smooth chrome piece. That's really all you want. Now, what am I going to do? Before, I'm not worried about my needle because I still have my clutch disengaged. Remember, I showed this in the last video, I believe. You hold your hand wheel and take your clutch knob and pull it towards you until it wiggles loose. You're not undoing it. You don't want to unscrew the clutch knob. Just loosen it. And again, as I was demonstrating in a video about how to install the tire and test the tire, you should be able to wind your bobbin without your needle moving. It might hop or wiggle a little bit, but it should not move up and down. Okay, now, so let's go back and make sure I still have that thread tail that was hanging that went through the bobbin. Now, what do I want to do? Before I start pressing any speed pedals and get zooming here, I'm going to take this and I'm going to let it just with my hand, and you can see, well, maybe you can't see. Let's try that. There we go. And you can see the thread spool moving. What am I doing? I'm basically priming this thing. I'm getting it started, and then before I start running the bobbin tire, I'm just going to clip this thread tail. I don't want this tail in my way, because with this thread hanging, if I start running the bobbin winder, the thread could create all kinds of strange problems. Usually it'll just jam somewhere or get caught somewhere and you won't know, and it'll create other issues. Again, not complicated, but just something to watch for. Okay, now here we go, guys. We now have what I believe to be the correct threading for this. Now I'm going to start slow, Remember, as I've mentioned in other videos, you never want to wind a bobbin full speed. If you do, it can actually wind it too tightly, and that can affect the tension in your stitches. But you don't have to go slow. I'll show you. You can kind of go by the sound. Okay, so this is about mid. I'm about halfway. And most bobbin winders, as they work, the thread will go back and forth, right? It'll build up a layer and then it'll go back and forth. Most of these bobbin winders by the 50s were designed to fill just below the rim of the bobbin, and then they stop. But these are analog devices, so you want to be sure that you're watching yours. And just so you guys can see, the needle is not moving, so the clutch mechanism is working great. And again, just hold it at a steady speed. That's fine. This is probably not super slow. I'm sort of in the middle of the speed range is probably the best way to describe this. I don't actually have a number. I'm doing it with my toes. Oh, and I actually ended up using all of the purple thread on this particular spool, but that's fine. But you guys can see, and again, very often what will happen is as the thread begins to build up to the edge of the rim, just watch it, and what it should do is something like that, right? It should basically, it should stop. But if it doesn't, you can stop it yourself so that you don't end up overwinding your bobbin. So before I let this go, I'm just simply pull my newly wound bobbin off. I have a nice, good amount of fresh purple thread here. And I'll just let this go back, and notice that when when it comes off here, I push down, it immediately wants to swing to the left, which is what it should do, because now it tucks away and you don't have to look at it. That was the whole point, I think, of this bobbin winder type, was so that it could look nice and clean. It was an aesthetic thing, and the Italians did that. They're known for a beautiful industrial design. Anyway, before I let you guys go, I will mention again, what was I talking about with the bobbin? Your bobbin will fill, and again, when you get to the very edge of the rim, you want it to stop, or you want to stop it. Because if you end up with a big bulge and you get more thread, if the circumference of the thread winding is greater than that of your bobbin, it can also create its own issues when you go to put the bobbin in the bobbin case. So again, it may automatically stop for you. Many times they do, but if it doesn't, you have the power to override that and stop it yourself. So thank you guys. Let's see, I think I've already shown how to install a bobbin into the bobbin case. But again, if you guys maybe you've looked at the manual, I always highly recommend that you get the user manual for any sewing machine that you have, and certainly a vintage machine, if whether you're new to it or not. It's always a great reference, lots of great information. But some of the manuals have drawings, and they'll have diagrams, and they'll refer to A, B, C, D, and that's great, that's helpful. But I personally find it useful when I try to learn something. If you can see photos or a video, it can hopefully be helpful. I hope this video was helpful for you guys. Maybe you just got a Necchi Supernova and you're trying to figure out this funky bobbin winder, which again is an incredible design. But remember, bobbin winding, just like sewing, requires that you follow the machine's rules. It has certain rules, and it wants you to follow them. So if you put a bobbin in and you try to bring a thread down and then thread it out another way, you're going to have problems, because the engineers designed it to function a certain way. So again, you always want to touch the thread guides, don't miss any, and make sure you hit them in the right order, because that's how the machine was designed to work. Thanks for watching, everyone.